Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Matchup. Today with us is Alli Warner, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Perigon Pointe, based out of California. And alongside of her today, guest Michael Mignosi, who's the head of organic growth for Perigon Wealth. I made a mistake at two Californians on the same time, but looking forward to today's conversation. As a way of introduction, I think sometimes I'm remiss in when I talk to marketers like the two of you, not getting enough of the marketing journey and how do you get to where you are. I would love if each of you spent like 2 minutes each, just talk to us how you got into your role. And Michael, since I don't know you as well as Alli, tell your story first. How did you get to the head of organic growth at Perigon?
Yeah, so going as far back as my college education, born and raised in New York, went to school in the Midwest where I studied urban planning, marketing, and Chinese. So I've always had like this kind of infatuation with the concept of growth and how things and cities and places develop. And I don't think it was at that point that I really understood it or accepted that because, when you're thinking about kind of things that you're passionate about, it's not typically a trade and something a little bit more poetic. But I moved back to New York where I spent about a little under 10 years working on the agency side. So working at two different brand agencies, one specializing really in kind of like brand marketing and how do we develop and create brands for industries like real estate, hospitality, and finance. And then moving from there, I went over to another agency where I really honed in on the more technological side of implementations and branding and how does a brand kind of transcend into website, e-commerce, digital deliverables, and things like that. But along both of those paths, I was really focused on the real estate side. You think, something a little bit more I was passionate about. I had studied urban planning. I was in New York, which is arguably one of like the sexiest real estate cities in the world. And so I went in-house to oversee marketing for a large family office asset manager called the Pointe Group. They were almost entirely focused in real estate development. So I was working on both B2B and B2C channels, generating marketing and growth efforts for consumers residential people looking to move into apartments, large firms moving into kind of like Class A office buildings. And then we also launched a venture capital fund and like a mezz loan servicing organization. So it was interesting to work with a bunch of different kind of like sub brands and how figuring out how they might or might not interact with each other. And to do that, we built out a pretty robust CRM system using Salesforce. So again, leveraging kind of like my technical implementation side, how can we figure out by getting better data? So how can we better harvest data? How can we then service our customers more? And how can we create community and interactions without as much human intervention? So more kind of like Salesforce custom journeys based on certain actions or events or life cycles of a customer and prospect's journey. Pandemic happened. I decided to seek sunnier pastures, a more relaxing lifestyle out of the hustle and bustle, and planted myself in Los Angeles, where I did a short stint doing product marketing for a real estate startup called Avantstay, but largely spent the earlier years in LA working for an RIA called Crescent Asset Management, and I was working on their alternatives division. So they had a subsection of their firm called Crescent Partners. It recently rebranded into Peakline Partners. And I was tasked originally with bringing on growth marketing efforts for their real estate investment funds. However, within that time, we expanded to private equity, private credit, venture capital, and then some more real estate funds. So it really grew. And again, I was there building out how can we think more intelligently about this access to this, massive RIA with ultra high net worth individuals, and how can we leverage the data within our Salesforce ecosystem to make it easier to convert or create opportunities for people to engage and then market. So that was really a good mix of business development and marketing. So on the marketing side, doing more conventional kind of like digital advertising, paid search, getting people to our website, serving them with relevant content, and creating journeys based on the type of content they actually engage with. But then also leveraging that personalization at scale and that engagement scoring. How can we create actions for our business development representatives to take action on someone who would be more likely to want to have a conversation about investing. And then about 6 months ago, I moved over to Perigon Wealth, an RIA with about 8.7 billion in AUM. And I am setting out to, build something similar and shinier and newer here. So I've been, doing that.
Awesome. That's a great setup, Michael. And I think Alli, Michael had somewhat a windy path. I kind of feel like you were born to do marketing for Beacon Pointe. Tell us your story.
Sure. Well, I actually come from a real estate family, so Michael's speaking my language on all of that. I started with Beacon Pointe 15 years ago as an intern. So yes, you couldn't have paid me $1 million. I think I'd work in finance out of school. But I landed here at Beacon Pointe. I was getting my master's degree. I was business and marketing, communication management, undergrad and grad. So it was a nice fit. I was actually cold calling on the institutional side of the business for an incredible mentor of mine who's still part of the business, Shannon's dad, Garth Flint. And just came across a bunch of marketing materials that I said, I can make this better. We can present ourselves better. We have great people doing great things. We need our materials and our marketing story to wrap those people in a better hug, if you will. And, Michael said something really interesting about business development and marketing, and the evolution has been unique in that sense. When I started, we had one office and 22 people and no departments, no marketing, no nothing. Now we have 60 plus offices, 45 billion in assets under management, and more than 600 people on our team. It's myself and a team of 4 currently, so 5 of us total. So we're very busy, but we made a strategic decision to kind of bifurcate business development and marketing. I was wearing both those hats. It was a lot. And they are very integrated. We are very, very close on that front, but we're very specialized in what we do. And the synergies there have proven to do quite well over the last couple of years as we've doubled and tripled our business. But yes, my journey was much more linear. I worked with a winery for a minute beforehand and then found myself at Beacon Pointe. It's evolved though so much over the years that I felt like I've held 15 different jobs. And it's fun and high energy and fast paced and Southern California vibes. I'm also from Southern California, but very intense. We have a ton of athletes here at Perigon Wealth. I played volleyball in college, and so that speaks my language in terms of working together as a team and being highly competitive, but in a positive environment, and enjoying the journey and tackling a few goals along the way.
Well, Alli, that's a great setup. And I think one of the things that I always love asking marketers, or like when you had a blank slate, if you were going to create a marketing machine on your own, what would you do? And you have a unique perspective that you sort of built it as you went. Yeah. And so fast forward to 2025. Let's ask that question to both of you, starting with you, Alli. If you're going to rethink or rebuild or restart a marketing campaign, or maybe doing it for the first time, because we know there's a lot of wealth management firms, asset management firms that don't have an institutional commitment to marketing just yet, that want to start somewhere. Where do you start in today's environment building a marketing out? Like, what are some of the first couple steps you tell an aspiring marketer how to get this going?
Good question. I think it depends who you're asking. Is it an advisor? Is it somebody who gets to focus on this? You have to know who you're marketing to first and foremost, because if you can't create a story that speaks to that particular audience, you're already lost. The second part is you have to be digital. The pandemic sped that up. It was happening beforehand. 15 years ago, we were geniuses if we set up a Twitter X account. That's not the case anymore. It's quite sophisticated and it's quite saturated also. So to get through the noise, you have to have very targeted strategies. Ironically, the systems we built back in 2010 are still in place today. Obviously, we've expanded and done some offshoots, but the fundamentals are still in place. And we strategically, I worked with Shannon and Matt, who are obviously incredible leaders at Beacon Pointe, and they believed in me and what we were trying to build. We wanted to create that for scale. We had a vision for growth. And so even if I was manually doing something, could we do this with a tech stack at 10x? Could we optimize this? So there's a lot of where are you today? Where do you want to go? And how do you invest in that long enough to ensure that you give it time to take effect? Because it took about 2.5 years to see results. So if you don't have buy-in from the top and you don't have the the risk ability to allow for that time to kind of generate some results when you're starting from the ground zero. It's a little bit of a hard journey. I see so much marketing ADD that people don't stick to something long enough to actually see the fruition of their efforts. And I see both of you nodding. So and
I wish someone not from marketing was on this call to hear that.
Yep. And so, we do a really good job of storytelling the indirect ROI and the impact of that, as well as the true hard ROI on our marketing initiatives and campaigns, because so much of what you do in CRM is important. Tech stack is important, but you've got to have who you're marketing to. Just to get back to answering your question, Joe, what are you trying to achieve to get to that endpoint? And then you pick and choose. You can't be everything to everyone or do every platform. Pick and choose the areas that you want to optimize a strategy and actually stick to it. And then see the results and modify. A big part of that strategy has to be digital. We're putting a lot of emphasis on SEO right now, and it's reaping major benefits. And that's, some people may choose PR, but you got to quantify the investment and see where that value is for the dollar expense.
And Michael, I want you to answer this question, but I'm jumping on what Alli said. There's two things that really need to be amplified here. Number one, Alli, in 2010, when so few firms were committed to digital and you were given a 2.5-year leash to make an impact when it wasn't crowded and noisy, gives you some context. People need to be really committed to a marketing strategy, and it can't be an overnight 3 months and it didn't work kind of thing. And time again, you didn't build an investment track record in that amount of time, et cetera, et cetera. You have to give the same amount of time and attention. And the second thing I want to just piggyback on, because I think it might help set up Michael a bit here too, is the idea that it isn't just one lane anymore. Some people do use PR. Some people do use SEO and SEM as the tip of the sword, whatever it might be. Marketing is so fragmented right now that you hit on choose a few discrete activities and work on them well and try to maximize the output, be able to measure that. And so I didn't want those comments going by because I'm in full agreement, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And to turn the table, Michael. So Michael, for you, is this a real live situation? There was no head of organic growth before you have this role. So you have a new role that was created at the organization. It's a new job for you, a new organization for you. And you are building organic growth marketing, from scratch, so to speak. Not to say the team wasn't doing anything before, but you're putting your imprint on it. What are some of the things you're doing now to sort of activate and making sure that Perigon is on the leading edge here?
Yeah, so most of it is exactly what the both of you just said. So really for me, it's coming in, and I think historically marketing and towards although Alli had mentioned that your career is more linear, there's a lot of commonality in it and how the evolution of marketing has always really kind of been sales driven or sales enabled. And now we're seeing this either bifurcation or merging into what people are, deeming as organic growth. But I think the people who have become successful in it are the ones who set out early to define what success is. Historically, marketing has always been seen as this qualitative, make it look nice, have a pretty website. But if you could define what a success is at the most basic level, so is that converting a lead? And what does that mean to convert a lead? Is that booking a call? Is that getting a meeting with an advisor? Is that sending out a letter of intent or a contract to convert? And by doing that, you can then think about what happens from step A to step Z in getting that conversion, so that you can create a long-term scale of how can we evolve each step in that stage? How can we enable the sales rep or the advisor to be better at that job, to meet the customer where they're at? And then also, how can we better educate and inform the prospects or customers before they even come into this funnel, in terms of what are the types of questions that they're asking? What are they feeling? What are they thinking about? What are they researching to even get to our website or our LinkedIn page or one of our events? So for me, the first step when I joined Perigon was okay, organic growth might sound like a loose term, but what are we doing here? Do we want to convert leads? Do we want to get people in front of advisors? Do we want more AUM? Do we want more advisors on a B2B side? So that really has been kind of where I've been heads down in terms of building out the systems to evaluate and measure that success, so that then we could start thinking about how do we create or how do we evaluate the sources of where those things come from? Is it social media? Is it a website? Is it in-person events? Is it personal referrals so that we can then obviously have more justification to do the things that are working, like SEO, and maybe use it to not spend as much money on something that people may have told you is working or is really good, but doesn't actually hasn't proven any sort of success. So that's really where I've been at. And then the second side of that, which also plays into what you guys were saying, is like meeting the customers or the prospects where they're at. We're in a world where everyone is on every device, every platform, Chrome, Safari, mobile, desktop, tablet, in-person, referral, email. And while it's the marketer's job to navigate the deliverability of that and optimize for that, it's really important that we're creating preferences for the users to be able to customize their journey. So I might inquire about wanting to learn more about a product or service, but I like getting text messages. I don't want you flooding my inbox. Although I'm a marketer, I hate spam emails, and that's not my journey, but that's not to say that's not the journey of many other different people. So if we can make it easy for people to sell what they're selling or market what they're marketing without having to really go platform to platform, but make it one centralized system that can disseminate or syndicate that info to the end user in the way that they like to ingest it, you're going to increase the chances or likelihood of converting that into real business.
So I want to slide over to a question that I ask all my guests in advance. And I think two of you came on strong with this in terms of where it points you in your approach to marketing. And that I asked you both, what's recommended reading for other marketers, books that you've leaned on and learned from a little bit. And the two books that came out were Made to Stick and Permission to Feel. And fundamentally, I've only read one of the two books, but I do know enough about what they cover that they're both driving looking at marketing through partially an emotional lens, like what the customer is feeling, right? Making sure you're relating on a human level. And I think so much where you've seen firms that have committed to marketing say, we got to institutionalize our approach to marketing. It sometimes feels like you're losing some of that touch by being able to equip 100 advisors or 500 advisors, or 7 offices or 10 offices with the ability to market. I've seen firms like yours do a good job keeping that human touch involved. So tell me, how do you orient your business in your marketing to stay close to those principles? How do you make sure that whether you're doing it with one advisor or scaling it for an organization, you find a way, again, to keep the buying audience, the client, front and center? Alli, what's your take on that?
Yeah, no, Joe, you hit it right on the head. I think that's an important factor that is top of mind for us every single day. Scale is great. Efficiency is great in terms of marketing, because then you can reach broader audiences, bigger audiences, create that top funnel opportunity at larger scale. But a lot of the advisors that we work with or that have joined Beacon Pointe, have that small personalized feel, and we never want to lose that, because at the end of the day, money is personal and money is emotional. And the relationship with the advisor and the advisory team is what moves the needle. And so we want to showcase that and highlight that. We do that very, very well in our digital spaces with our social media. We manage more than 250 advisor profiles on LinkedIn, and we help them create those stories. And it's very personalized for their offices, for their local teams, for what they're doing in their community. I mean, that messaging is customized. It's not just a, plug and play, copy paste, exact same type of, post and graphic that 200 other people are posting on the same date and time. It has generated a lot of localized visibility, and it's effectively a digital ad campaign at $0 spend minus my team's human capital. A lot of human capital, a lot of time put into that, but the thoughtfulness is what makes it different and unique to those advisors. And it's reaped benefits for them, both indirectly and directly. I think the messaging in all types of communications, to Michael's point, a lot of clients want things in different mediums. They want to do things in their own time. There's how you present the material is also very important. Is it from a true educational, altruistic nature? Are you bifurcating your newsletters to speak to certain audiences and different niche target groups? And is it speaking to them? Are you customizing by first name? Are you putting in advisors' names? Where and when is that appropriate? You also have to think from a business continuity standpoint. And our advisors totally buy into this. They want to market and brand to Beacon Pointe. it allows for their teams to grow. It allows for their clients to feel like they can talk to more than just one person if they need something. It's a very positive, healthy relationship with clients. So there actually is some positive branding and nurturing to the company name, as well as the individual advisor or the local office and team. So we intentionally are very thoughtful about a hybrid approach.
Michael.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite similar. I would say one of the biggest reasons why I joined Perigon is this kind of like ethos of our brand, where it's really empowering individualism and empowering an advisor to really come as they are, knowing that we're trusting each advisor to be however they want to be to better serve their clients. And, I haven't seen that a lot. And our CEO, Arthur, reflects it like in a really beautiful way that's super compelling. And, as someone who really feels empowered by individualism and independence, like I'm super excited to help showcase that and build technologies and marketing that can just better match a prospect based on their interests and their needs to a different type of advisor at our firm. So leveraging technology for that. But in doing that, it's like we're also training and working a lot with behavioral specialists to just help advisors learn more about meeting the prospect or customer where they're at, whether it's, you're getting on a call, that person's coming from either a busy meeting, a stressful divorce, some sort of really emotional situation. And I think just educating or reminding people, because none of us are taught this in school. We're not taught how to identify emotions or how to meet people on levels that just makes it easier to feel safe and connected. I find that to be extremely empowering. And so, we do a lot of work with that, and I'm excited to do more to help kind of educate and inform our advisors to be better salespeople by being just better people, and really just, connecting with humans. So, I'm coming from a lot of the real estate industry, which I take a lot of their successes and advancements in marketing and sales, and I'm hopefully bringing them to the wealth management industry, which is a bit behind it. But like, these are, Alli was saying, like, these are really emotional things. Your finances, purchasing a home, like, these are all really emotional transactions, and it's so quick to get to lose sight of that. Like, you're in your day to day, you're working, you're hustling, you're planning, you're doing financial planning. Like, it's easy to forget where that other human is coming from. And so it's, reminding them, I think, is just an important first step in getting there.
So here's my take on the emotional piece that I think is really important when you start scheming out, what are you going to do from a marketing standpoint with this? I actually believe you can't be fully successful with your digital marketing without having a sense of the emotional connection points or who you're trying to reach out there in the universe. And whether it's an awareness ad, whether it's something you boost on social media, you're thinking about one person with one specific issue and what they're going through and why they would respond to that and connect with that. If you don't have that emotional connection, I really don't think, and again, it may sound weird combining technology with emotions, but we've seen time and time again, the more connected you can be and how you promote yourself, put yourself out there, even in things like SEO and SEM, the more fruitful you're going to be. So I'd love for you to react to that. But building off that, even the two of you, unlike some of other marketers I speak to, you lead with digital. So walk us through a little bit why the orientation with digital, how that sort of fits in an environment in an arena where referral marketing and word of mouth has always been like the gold star approach, right? And I'd love to hear your comments on the idea that I threw out there about the emotional connectivity to successful digital marketing as well. So, Michael, I'm going to pick on you first this time.
Yeah, so I think that it's twofold. So one, digital is the easiest way to quantify and measure success. So that's like an easy avenue, especially if you're just starting out. It's a great way for you to start testing and experimenting because you can more easily quantify, like, someone Google researches this, they come to our website, we can track that, they fill out a form, we can track that, they then enter our CRM and enter our ecosystem. So for me, that's like a no-brainer. Is just, if you're going to start somewhere, start digital. But then the second fold of that is like, that's where everyone's at. I mean, people are, and as we think about the great transfer of wealth and the younger generations, like people are going straight to their platforms to either research or to find social evidence or proof of concept for a certain product or service before they go to their friends, or they're using those platforms to reach out to their friends. So you can capture those people and educate them there a lot more easily. So that's kind of, my take on it.
I totally agree with Michael. It's even if you have a client friend that refers you, they're going to Google you. So that needs to be in place. That ecosystem is also ongoing, right? So we also support in-person events. Again, back to that humanizing and emotional connection. Those are really, really important and done at the local level, right? Versus a corporate level. That intimacy and that relationship building is critical, but the ongoing nurturing and education and trying to be along the journey with these prospective clients and existing clients is really digital, whether that's, the different mediums, email, text, video, podcast, whatever the case may be. It's important to maintain that connection because events aren't happening every week or every month, maybe once a quarter. It's a big lift and also it's expensive, right? So digital, relatively speaking, can be a lower dollar spend across the individual number of contacts that you're able to engage with. So I 100% concur with Michael, and it's really great to hear another unique-minded marketing headspace and how those elements resonate. I immediately, Joe, thought when you said about connecting emotionally with your audience groups, I think of two things. The first being you guys are so on the money with that as it relates to working with both men and women, just with the multi-generational wealth transfers coming up. And educating advisors on how to almost be psychologists and help frame different questions and ask, they may be the same answers, but the folks sitting across the table from you may be coming at it from different headspaces. And so being able to tie it both to the economics and to the emotions is really, really a critical skill from advisors and being able to help clients and meet them along that journey. I always think back to early days, pre-Beacon Point, of the commercial or the ad. It was one of the case studies in one of my graduate school programs on, the slow construction zone. And then the ad that they did, or the billboard they did, is please slow down. My daddy's working here. And everybody slows down because all of a sudden they can emote and relate to that relationship. And you go, oh my gosh, if that's my child's father, I want to slow down and make sure he's safe, versus construction zone, speed limit, XYZ, so same end goal, but completely different result based on the slogan or the marketing campaign, if you will. So that always resonates with me. I always think about that particular campaign case study as it relates to creating emotion, and graphics do that, but also language does that. So I completely concur with Michael on all fronts, and digital is just a place that you can very quickly widen a top funnel and have data to be able to support the in-person events and more of that organic client referral nurture.
So you think about digital, the area that's been somewhat of a new frontier has been the testimonials. More firms are getting on board with the wealth tenders of the world. They're getting on board with Amplify. They're getting on board with, going back and using Google reviews and actually engaging with that. And so as the two of you look through that piece of it, where does that fit in the prism of your digital marketing? And then, Alli, I know your team's appreciated Google reviews for a long time, but tell us a little bit more about how you work that in.
Sure. I thought of one other thing too, as it relates to what we were just talking about. And I think AI is going to be a huge part of the digital component. And I know we haven't touched on that, but the predictive ability of AI to meet these clients and prospective clients on their journeys, getting ahead of maybe a separation or a divorce and being able to proactively help in that process versus be reactionary. Or if a family member is ailing from health, how can we help them prepare and be able to focus on the emotions? And so it's not there yet, but that's something from a digital perspective that we hope we can help support and not exploit. That's not the plan, but again, nurture and educate and be a resource to those folks that need that help. So maybe another topic for another time, but
no, I'd love to talk about
yeah. So Google reviews and just testimonials in general. Again, the marketing space in the RIA world has changed dramatically since I started. Back in 15 years ago, a like on a social media post was considered a testimonial, and you couldn't do that hence why there was no social media use back in the day by advisors and wealth management firms. Now, testimonials are wide open, permitting important and detailed disclosures, and same with endorsements and collaborations, if you will. We've definitely started to utilize the client testimonials and the Google reviews. We are best friends with our compliance department, and we love them very much. And it's going really, really well. It certainly plays a major role in your SEO opportunity. You have a ceiling you hit if you don't have those. So it's just a huge component of the algorithm. So it's really, really important. And a lot of what we do is advisor education, because we're not asking for those reviews. Again, that's kind of back to the conversation, Joe and Michael, about the localization and the personalization from the advisors. I mean, we provide them everything they need to be able to ask for those reviews. But that should come from that relationship, in our opinion. And we've gotten hundreds even since we formally launched this in a couple quarters, and it's been great. And, we continue to hopefully see that energy and be able to use it in a lot of different capacities, social media, website, and, long-term video to create that storytelling and emotion with clients that are open to doing that with us. So we're just at the beginning of the runway with that, but it's very exciting, and it allows for that more emotional connection and bringing the services to life.
And Michael, have you gotten down that path in 6 months in?
We've started to lay the foundation, at least defining the need for it. And, I think what Alli was saying earlier is like, up until recently with marketing rules and the SEC, like they made it really hard for for marketers to create testimonials or publicize them. And that's changed, and it's getting more open. So I think it's, it's really changing the mindset of the advisors to like be more open to capturing them. So then what we've worked on so far is more of the behavioral side. So how do you go about asking a customer for one? How do you make it authentic by making it authentic? So, we haven't yet built out the scaled system of using technology or marketing to like automate requesting one, but we're right now just, helping advisors get more comfortable with being able to like get validation, which again, that's something we're not really trained to do, and it can be awkward and uncomfortable. So if we can at least like let them know that it's okay to feel like you deserve a recognition from your customer, and it is authentic and original to what Alli was just saying, like I care a lot more about that than building out a third-party based referral system that's generating recommendation requests. And that's, we're small enough to not need that yet, but like, yeah, I'd love testimonials. I think we're in a society where social evidence is arguably the most powerful validation, more so than like financial performance, especially in an industry like this.
Yeah, and a client referral is a one-to-one thing. A testimonial that's published somewhere is one-to-many, right? I think you talk about the word social proof. There's still a very short list of things that could really give you that sort of credibility, that visibility, that connection, that you're okay at your job and someone could trust you with their financial affairs. And, if that's you have the testimonials, those client referrals. Maybe you're one of those people that has, you get out there and speak at local events or out at industry events, or maybe you have a good PR profile, but it's really a short list of being able to, stand out that way. And so what's the most accessible, I think, to all advisors is to build good relationships and harvest those testimonials, in my mind. I think, and the tools are there to do more with that. Let's shift gears here. As we get into the late innings of this podcast here, one of the questions I have to ask, because this is a hot button issue, it's something that I think about a lot, particularly in my empathy with fellow marketers. And I'm going to ask this point blank. Has M&A increased the pressure on marketers and organic growth in general? And do you feel like there's more at stake? And Michael, you got a job created, I think, because of this. So I'm gonna throw this hot potato to you.
We see the benchmarking studies from all the custodians who all talk about the highest performing RIAs who do M&A or who don't, and how organic growth plays a role in it. I don't think that there's enough pressure on it. So for me personally, like organic growth is and this is for any industry or any sort of product or service offering, but like organic growth is how you prove if something's like viable. It's easy to do M&A. It's just a matter of capital and pitching. I don't know, say it's easy to do, but like I'm not undermining anyone, but organic growth and being able to generate revenue and lifetime value or ongoing customer success, like that's how you prove something successful. So I think that there needs to be more pressure on it. And I think, while it's becoming this like burgeoning subsection, like it always was marketing and it always was sales. And marketers were like rebranding our departments in a sense. So it's always been there. And I know, Alli, like we've always known it. It's just how do we go about proving it? And how do we quantify that success? So I'm excited to get more eyes and more pressure on it.
How about you, Alli? How do you feel about it? You've been with this for 15 years now. We're very acquisitive.
Yeah, sure. When I started Beacon Point, we didn't actually do quite a few acquisitions yet until about a year and a half in. And then the snowball effect just took effect, and we did a whole bunch of our deals before we had any private equity partners join us just a couple of years ago. And it's just amplified what we've been able to do. I think it's multifaceted. I don't necessarily feel like there's pressure. We love it. We love having new team members. We're very selective about who joins our company because, again, the emotive part, culture is what keeps us excelling. It keeps everybody happy, thriving, growing. And, we are in that upper echelon of organic growth in relation to the industries. And there's a lot of quantitative components to that, but also the qualitative part of that. And so I think there's pressure from marketing to help source top funnel. I think organic growth across the board has been lower, right, the last couple of years. I think maybe the pandemic had something to do with that. People were, more out and about, networking, doing all of that to the nth degree. And I think gotten a little comfortable kind of being 2D, if you will, a little bit. And so that's, again, the digital marketing component of reaching more people to get into the funnel for advisors to nurture and develop those relationships in partnership with marketing and, the sales support teams. I also think there's a proverbial kick the can down the road 5 years of, I'll figure it out. Growth will come. I do great work for my clients, but, they're not really not asking, but, and there's a thoughtful way to ask for a client, referral or recommendation to friends and family. And it's not actually asking. There's some tactical approaches to that and, altruistic and genuine. But I just think some of it is a talent issue too, in terms of advisors coming in. There's a bit of the retirement advisor and the young next gen advisors. And there's a little bit of a gap in that, experience levels and some of these business development skill sets. And so I think also the transition of clientele is different. So the generational shifts are starting to kind of have an impact on how clients want to interact. And so that might be having a pseudo impact on organic growth too. So I think advisors are trying to figure out, how do I serve my current clients? How do I engage the next gen of clients, which is very different from my current clients, but they're all connected. And so there's a little bit of that going on. I don't necessarily, I thrive in pressure, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, but.
Well, you were an NCAA athlete, so maybe that's easy for you. Well, I like the mindset both of you are sharing on that. Another hot topic, just this week, Pershing is teasing launching an advisor referral program. We know Schwab's was in the spotlight not too long ago with their talk of increasing the cost of participation. I'll give you my own hot take on the situation. I don't think, as an RIA, you should be in one of those referral programs unless you already have robust organic growth. I think, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but I'd love to hear how organizations like yours make use of referral programs. Again, custodians, smart asset, whatever. What insights or best practices you bring to the table in terms of how your organizations may or may not play with those? And Michael, I'll go back to you for this one. You're nodding along.
Yeah, so we're heavily involved in referral platforms. It's something I've come into this firm with. We're using about a dozen of them, or maybe just a little bit less than that. So everything from the smart assets to Zoe's, to Finance HQ and Data Line. as well as entertaining the ideas of the custodian referral programs. And for me, again, it's going back to that first step of how do we do this? So for me, it was getting all of those leads from the referral platforms into our system so that we could start putting them at a one-to-one level where we can evaluate the success of them. Anecdotally, in the first month, I was interviewing all of the advisors and talking about where they're getting their business from, the referral platforms they use, and they'll all tell you different stories of like, this one's great, this one's terrible, the leads are bad, the leads are good. And as, a more kind of like quantitative marketer in my head, I'm like, well, you could have been bad at it. You could have not like hustled or sick leads as much as you should, or been thoughtful enough to really respond. So I've been working on evaluating the success of those, using as like neutral as a level as we can to really understand the cost to conversions of it. And then how can we optimize these platforms differently, because the leads come in at different parts of the funnel. Some of them are super top of the funnel. I just gave you my email address. I don't actually know why you're calling me. Some of them like have gone through a 10-step form. So they're, they've given their blood type. So they're ready to get a pitch and they're ready to sign. And again, it's using marketing and technology to better serve and get in front of the leads, but in a way that makes sense to where they're at. And then doing that in a way that doesn't like fry an advisor's brain. So, we don't have a BD team here yet or something that we're developing. So I'm working on enablement tools and trainings to better serve the advisors to handle and adapt to these different situations, because it's, what Alli was saying with regards to the older advisors, the younger advisors, older clientele and younger clientele, and like this ever-changing landscape of everything in these definitely unprecedented times. It's, I'm just trying to get in front and train and educate everyone on the prospect and advisor side to better handle that funnel. So I don't yet know about the custodian or these new and emerging platforms. I saw Nancy Gordon's work with the Pershing one. So I'm definitely excited to hear more, but like, I think, at a younger part of the growth for Perigon, it's, what can we do now to train advisors to enable and sell, so that it doesn't really matter what the platform is. But we've seen a lot of very good success with third-party lead generation and referral platforms. So, I'm definitely eager to have more qualifications to figure out which ones are really good and which ones might actually or objectively not be as good.
Great. And Alli, any thoughts on the referral platform?
Yeah, you make an interesting point, Joe. We kind of look at it as we want to make sure we have a diverse pie chart of sources, right? Because we always look at risk related to any of those. If anything is a good majority and poof, it goes away one day, that's not good for organic growth or the business longevity or our team or anything like that. So they do play a definite role in our organic growth. We actually kind of look at it almost like a segmented organic component. It's a referral component of organic. What is true organic? And we look at it that way as well. And so, we can kind of not manipulate the data, but kind of look at it in different ways, shapes, and forms. We have great relationships with, well, it was all three with TD, but Schwab and Fidelity and several others, and wonderful partners, and we enjoy doing business together. But we certainly also have many other organic sources of client development and new business, because I think it's a very healthy way to maintain organic, because what we preach in investments, asset allocation and diversification. Very, very important.
Well, so we two last questions here. Second to last question is this. Firms out there aren't too many Allis and Michaels running around the industry, or they're powered C-level head of marketing types running marketing. Where does the industry come up with a solution for that? How do we build out that talent pipeline? So all these firms that need the talent to build out marketing, get their people. Any ideas?
Join Beacon Point or join Michael's firm.
Yeah.
No, but yes. No, you think about our conversation today. There are so many faucets. Even just when Michael was talking about the B2B channel of supporting advisors or growing your B2C channel, you could slice that infinitely, and you have to have a strategy for every single one of those. And it's quite sophisticated. It takes a lot of time. And I think that goes back to organic growth, because if you're growing, you can reinvest into your business. And if you want to reinvest and grow and, not join a Beacon Point or, a Perigon Wealth Management, then you need to try and have somebody that can set the strategic level. We do a lot in house, but if you just have that fulcrum point on the inside of your team, and then you can, hire Gregory SCA to run some of the different components and be able to outsource some of those elements, then I think you can be somewhat successful. You just got to have that anchoring strategic individual to help steer the ship forward in the right direction and not get lost on all these different, offshoots, and also just for accountability, because marketing dollars can go very fast if you're not a steward of those investments.
Great point. Michael, any thoughts on the talent pool?
Yeah, I think, starting younger, getting people who might be interested in marketing or might be interested in sales, and educating on really the cohabitation of them both, which has become organic growth. But both of our two careers, those they've run very closely together. And I think that's never, that's not really what people think about when they think about marketing. They don't necessarily think about sales or business development, and vice versa. But once you can understand how to unlock the two of them or have them coexist in a really synergistic way, I think that's super powerful. In venture capital and startup formation, the most successful startups are the ones where they see the head of sales and the CMOs working really closely together. And that's what helps, one of the ways to prove viability of a startup into a medium or stabilized organization. So I think that transcends into the individual, and should empower and learn more about both of those to become successful.
So there's some good thoughts there. So now it's time for the parting shot. Each of you get 30 seconds to give me a little takeaway, something you want people to remember, a piece of advice you might have gotten in your career about marketing, anything you would want the audience to think about, take away with them, lessons you've learned, anything, just something quick that you want to leave behind. Alli, I'll put you on the spot.
I was going to say, Michael gets to go first on this one. I went first on the last one.
I'll go first.
Go for it. Whoever wants it.
We're not saving lives. I think that's a really important reminder. Well, some of you might be, but it's an important reminder to remember of what we're here to do and what we're doing, so that, by maintaining the perspective of life, and I go back to this, one anecdote I have of my sister's an ER doctor. And I remember I made a big mess up on a print production project once, where something was, I don't know, incorrect, and we had to reprint it. And it cost $10,000 to reprint. And I remember calling my sister, freaking out about it. And she's like, I can't talk right now. My patient just died. I'm locked inside. I'm hiding in a closet crying. And so it was a really great example to put into perspective of the problems that we face on the business side versus other industries. So by maintaining that kind of perspective of this is a job, we are here to do well and work hard, but we're not saving lives, I think helps to remove a lot of the kind of pressure we all put on ourselves as individuals. And I think that unlocks a lot of productivity and power in someone.
I like that life lesson, not just marketing lesson, but good life lesson.
Yeah.
I would say my little slice of advice is you're not going to be everything to everyone, and you can't do it all. And I've learned that through a lot of different parts of life and marketing, but I like to do things 110%, even if I can only do 80% of the things. So, we small but mighty marketing team. We can't literally do everything that is in the marketing wish list, but the things that we're going to do, we are going to do 110%, and we're going to, do it to the best of our ability. And I think that that's served us very, very well, kind of back to what we were talking about executing a strategy and doubling down. And to Michael's point, realizing, okay, there's a hiccup here, no problem. We're going to get up and pivot here, or, that resiliency and just sticking to your guns on that has served us very, very well.
Awesome. Well, the two of you, this is a lot of fun. Really appreciate it. This ends our episode here of Marketing Matchup. Alli Warner, Chief Marketing Officer at Beacon Point. Michael Mignosi, Head of Organic Growth at Perigon. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe, for having us.
Thanks, everyone. It's been super fun.
Thanks for listening to Marketing Matchup, a production of Gregory. If you like what you heard, please listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.